Hello everyone. In this video, I want to talk about multiple linear regression and certain nuances of multiple linear regression that you need to keep in mind when doing MLR or multiple linear regression analysis. So let's get started with that. And the first question that I would like you to think about is that why is it that the multiple linear regression model is better than a simple linear regression model? So one thing that we discussed is that in most real world situations, there is often more than one factor that impacts Y. And that is the reason why when you build a multiple linear regression model, you're able to make use of more information to explain your Y variable. Okay, remember we also discussed that the objective is to be able to explain the variation in Y. So when you have more information, or in other words, when you have more X variables, you expect to have higher accuracy of the model that you're building. Okay, and that is the principal advantage of multiple linear regression. Okay, because it allows you to use more of the information available to estimate the dependent variable. So now let's talk about the steps for creating a multiple linear regression model. And remember the concepts and assumptions and other things that we talked about with simple linear regression remain pretty much the same, but there are a few extra things that we need to check for, and I will be talking about those. So basically, what you do when you're building a multiple linear regression model is first you come up with your equation, then you examine the R square and other performance criteria of the equation, and then you can use multiple correlation analysis to determine how well the equation fits with the data, and also look at the specific relationships that you found out between Y and the different X variables. So let's talk about one thing which we need to keep in mind when we are doing this analysis. So basically, this is a picture of your, multiple linear regression analysis. In this example, we have Y, that is target variable, and we have X1 and X2. So to keep it simple, I'm only talking about a three-dimensional situation. So when we plot it, we have this Y and we have, X1 and X2 on these two axes. So let's say you have come up with this equation. So just to revise, basically your Y is the response variable, your beta naught is the intercept, and then you have beta 1 and beta 2. Those are the slopes or the parameter estimates or the beta estimates for x1 and x2. And then there is that conceptual error term. Okay, now we talked about the definition of beta. And in a simple linear regression model, we talked about that beta 1 will be the change in y caused by a unit increase in x1. Okay. Now, in the case of multiple linear regression, you need to extend this a bit. And what we actually say is that beta 1 represents the average change in y for a 1 unit change in x1, holding x2 constant. So it's very important. If here, for example, if you had x3 and if you had x4, and let's say you had a much longer equation here, then basically what you can say is that beta 1 explains the change, describes the change in y for a unit change in x1, holding all other x variables constant. So this is basically an extension of how you understand the beta variables, or the predict or the parameter estimates, the beta estimates when you are building a multiple linear regression model. And because of this situation, we talk about a particular complexity which is known as multicollinearity. So what is the meaning of multicollinearity? Let's talk about that. Okay, so let's read this definition first. So in regression analysis, if there is a high level of correlation between some of the independent variables, the regression coefficients often become less reliable as the degree of correlation between the independent variables increases. This is known as multicollinearity. So there are certain pieces of information which are very important in this statement. And the first one is that we're talking about the correlation between independent variables. So remember, So it's a good thing to have high correlation between dependent and independent variable. But it is not a good thing to have high correlation between two independent variables. And when that happens, then there are certain issues that come up that we need to check for and that make the model outcome not very desirable. And this situation is called multicollinearity. So multicollinearity is when independent variables are highly correlated with each other. Okay, and let's first talk about what are the problems that will be caused if there is multicollinearity. Okay, so here these are the problems that are caused by multicollinearity. The first one is that it can hide significant effect variables. The other one is that it causes the parameter estimates to become unstable by increasing their variance. Okay, so what is the meaning of unstable model? That even a change in one data point can cause big change in the final equation. So let's look at these two, in detail. So I'm going to talk about the second one first. Why do the parameter estimates become unstable when there is multicollinearity? To understand that, let's go back to the equation, the diagram that we had talked about before. So here what I said is that let's look at the definition of beta 1 to understand this better. So beta 1 was average change in y caused by unit change in x1 holding x2 constant. Now if x1 and x2 are highly correlated, when you change x1, it is not possible to keep x2 constant. And that is why what's going to happen is that the tool will anyways give you an equation. The tool will give you an equation, but the parameter estimates beta 1 and beta 2 will be very unstable. Or in other words, even if one data point changes, they will completely change, and that's going to make the equation very different, even with a very small change in the data, and that is not very desirable. So that is the second thing that we're talking about here, that it causes parameter estimates to become unstable by increasing their variance. Okay, the other one is that it can hide significant variables. So what we do, and we are going to try this out in our lab exercise, after building a linear regression equation, we check for the significance of relationship between the x and the y variable. Okay, and if there is multicollinearity, then the significance that you will get will not be reliable. Okay, so we will see how we use the p-value to check for statistical significance in when we do our lab on regression later on. Okay, but basically what we're saying is that we will check for multicollinearity by looking at the correlation between x and different x variables, and if there is high correlation between the x variables, then we know that we have an issue of multicollinearity, and that is not a desirable characteristic, and we need to do something about that. And what we often do is that if x1 and x2 are correlated, then we can either use x1 or we can use x2, but not both together. Now, I just want to talk about one last very important concept related to regression before we end the topic discussion on the theory of regression. So here this statement says that the best multiple linear regression model is one that explains the relationship among the data by accounting for largest proportion of variation in the dependent variable with the fewest number of independent variables. So this is a very important statement, and it's important that we understand this. So we know that a higher R square model is better. So that is what is the meaning of the largest proportion of variation. We want that to be explained with the data, but we want to use fewest independent variables. So if you have a very big data set with 100 independent variables in the data set, uh, it would be easy to get swayed and assume that a better model is the one which has more variables in it, but that is far from the truth, because in reality we are looking for a model that has the fewest number of independent variables but is able to explain the largest proportion of variation. So what happens is that R square is often not able to help us in making that choice, because what's going to happen is that whenever you add variables to a model, the R square keeps on increasing even though the added variable is not statistically significant, in its relationship with y. So, for example, you have a model with 10 variables and you add another variable to make it an 11 variable model. And what's going to happen is that r square will keep on increasing. But uh, even when the added variable does not have a statistically significant relationship with y, and we don't want that to happen. So what we do is we talk about another statistic that we take into account, which is known as adjusted r square. So I'm not going to go into the formula of adjusted r square, but I do want to tell you that essentially why is it called an adjusted r square? Because it adjusts the value of the r square for the number of variables that are being included in the model. So higher the number of variables in the model, the adjusted r square, might go up or might go down. It all depends on whether the added variable is statistically significant in the model or not. So, in other words, let's take an example. If we have a 10 variable model and we add the 11th variable, if the 11th variable is statistically significant in the model, then the adjusted r square will go up. Otherwise, adjusted r square can go down. Whereas r square always increases when you add variables to the model. So that is why when you are comparing two multiple linear regression models and you want to check which one is better, we often utilize adjusted r square, because r square is not sufficient to tell us the answer for that question. Okay, so I'm going to end the topic here, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks.